So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a piece of information I've just come across today concerning the eyewitness accounts regarding Nicola Bulley's disappearance back on January the 27th. Take a look at the following. So on February the 10th of this year, on Lancashire Constabulary's own website, which you can't actually access now, it's been taken offline, but people who use computers, there are ways to get back old websites if you use the Wayback Machine. I'm not going to get into all of that in this video, but I can show you here how this website appeared back on February the 10th. On their own website, it stated the following: 8:26 a.m, Nicola leaves her home address with her children. 8:40 a.m, Nicola drops the children off at school and has a brief conversation with another parent. Now, many people aren't even going to need me to show this website because they will remember what has been said here. Many people will remember that phrase. 8:40 a.m, Nicola drops the children off at school and has a brief conversation with another parent. Everyone's going to remember the other parent, aren't they? There's been talk of another parent. They were laughing and joking or whatever. There was some sort of conversation between Nicola and another parent at the school. Then Nicola takes Willow on the walk, heading towards the Iron Bridge. Many people are going to remember that. Yet when we move forward to February the 15th, the day that Rebecca Smith conducts the last press conference before Nicola's body is found, after this press conference, the timeline again changes. It then states the following. Bearing in mind again, this website you cannot access. It's been taken offline. This page has been taken down by Lancashire Police. But as I say, I can still access it. And it stated the following. This was on February the 15th, after the press conference held by Rebecca Smith. We can tell that because you've got photographs of that press conference in the post. So let's continue. 8:26 a.m, Nicola leaves her home address. 8:40 a.m, Nicola's children start school. No talk of Nicola dropping her children off. No talk of Nicola speaking to the parent or friend in the playground or passing a friend and then starting her walk. That has completely vanished. Now, this has not only been picked up by myself, but by someone else online who has also found this just a little bit strange. Now, they made a post back on March the 7th. And to put this into perspective, March the 7th was before the official CCTV was released. Do you remember Grizzly True Crime released the actual video of the CCTV at Nicola Bulley's house? This was before that was actually released to the public. So do bear in mind when I read to you the following. I wonder what the reason is why law enforcement would change the wording on the details of activities in the timeline that morning, unless they lacked proof about her leaving home at a certain time with or without her children and dropping them off and having a brief conversation with another parent. Maybe they couldn't find any CCTV or video surveillance showing her leaving that morning nor dropping the children off at school. And the other parent never materialised, or they were interviewed and some aspects of the earlier wording on the timeline was contradicted. Okay, so as I say, that post on a forum was written on March the 7th, before the CCTV was released at Nicola Bulley's address. So they want to know at this point in time that there was going to be the CCTV video released to the public, etc., etc. But they do make a couple of relevant and valid points here, I believe. Especially when they state the following. Maybe they could find no CCTV video surveillance showing her leaving that morning. Well, that's obviously not the case. Nor dropping the children off at school, and the other parent never materialised, or they were interviewed and some aspects of the earlier wording on the timeline was contradicted. Now that's what I want to focus on there, because I've taken a look at that school and I can't for the life of me see any CCTV coverage covering the car park in that area. None whatsoever. So it wouldn't surprise me actually if the police don't have any CCTV or video surveillance of Nicola dropping her children off that morning. But what stands out to me also is this friend, this talk about the friend who was in the car park, or she passed a friend, they waved or they spoke, whatever, and then Nicola took her dog on her walk. This was a fairly big part of the timeline. It's been constantly referred to over and over again in the newspapers, probably also in TV interviews. of this friend speaking to Nicola before Nicola went off on her walk. But it's interesting there. Why has that friend been taken off of the timeline? Very similar to what I touched upon in a previous video regarding the lower field witness. When this press release comes out, and bearing in mind, this isn't in the Daily Mail, this isn't in the Gazette or the Independent, this is from Lancashire Constabulary's own website. And their timeline changes dramatically. Most people will remember we've got an 8:47 lower field sighting, and then Nicola is seen at 9:10 in the upper field. But on this timeline, shortly after the press conference held by Rebecca Smith, we lose the eyewitness account from the primary school. We lose them actually saying that Nicola dropped the children off at the school. It just says that her children start school at 8:40, which sounds, just the wording sounds incredibly strange. And we also lose the 8:47 lower field witness. Now, what is taking place here? Is it just a case that Lancashire Constabulary are actually sticking to the facts that they have at this point in time? Or are we actually losing, possibly, credible witnesses? Because the friend's disappeared. The 8:47 lower field witness has disappeared. And now all that we are left with is a 9:10 sighting on the upper field at approximately, as I say, at around 9:10 that morning. As a side note to what I've just said, now at this point in time, clearly I'm going back and I'm taking a look at all of this investigation and the finer details of the investigation from the very start to when Nicola Bulley's body was discovered. But something that stands out to me personally is the fact that when I take a look back at these press conferences and I hear Sally Riley talking, I hear Rebecca Smith talking, and a common theme in those press conferences, or at least something that is mentioned on more than one occasion, is speculation. Please don't speculate. Stop speculating. It's very clear in terms of what we believe has happened here. But speculating hurts the family, and it also takes us away from the investigation. It distracts us. But is it any wonder, really, that speculation exists when you are actually bringing in and taking away witnesses? You haven't made a point about this and said, actually, we had a witness that we believed saw Nicola, but we have managed to discredit that witness. Now we believe that Nicola was actually last seen at 9:10 on the upper field. That sort of conversation with the public never happened. This investigation started off, bearing in mind, 3 days after Nicola went missing. This became sort of more mainstream news. It was out here. It was national news, sort of 3 days after Nicola went missing. And the first thing that Sally Riley said in this press release or press conference was that Nicola was last seen on the towpath. And this was the first 3, 4, 5, 6 days of the investigation, nearly a week into the investigation. Yet on around February the 3rd, this then changes. The last eyewitness on the towpath, that eyewitness account vanishes. She's now last seen at 9:10 in a completely and utterly different location, actually on the upper field. She's reached the field now and she's on the upper field, and was last seen at 9:10 by someone who knows Nicola. And during those press conferences, we were told that Nicola dropped her children off at school at 8:40, and then she made her way towards the Iron Bridge where the last sighting took place at, I believe they said, around 9:10 or 9:20, around that sort of timeline. However, a week later, that's all completely changed. We're now on February the 15th. We've got Rebecca Smith, who is leading the press conference on this occasion, the last press conference before Nicola Bulley's body is found. And it's now changed to 8:26, Nicola leaves her home address. 8:40, Nicola's children start school. 9:01, Nicola was with her dog in a field south of Rowan Water Caravan Park at St Michael's on Wyre. And 9:10, a witness who knows Nicola saw her on the upper field. So the towpath sighting has gone. The eyewitness, the friend at the school, has vanished. Nicola apparently isn't dropping the children off, although she probably is, but it's not mentioned here for some reason. Nicola drops the children off at school. That's gone. We're now left with Nicola's children start school at 8:40. So the wording of that has been completely changed. And as I say, is it any wonder that speculation exists when you haven't even come out into the public domain and said this is why this has happened? This is why the last eyewitness account is at 9:10. I mean, everything has changed. And bearing in mind that I've been there, I've experienced this location myself, the village. I was there for a few hours. And the impression I got was that, yes, everybody would know everyone in that area, or you would see the same faces all the time. You know, it's a very small catchment area, very small fields. So I can't understand for the life of me why you've got eyewitnesses who constantly keep coming and going. How do we keep gaining and then losing witnesses? And what has happened to the friend at the school who came forward, you know, very early on in this investigation, was very outspoken about her sighting of Nicola that morning, dropping her children off at school? Well, that friend, for whatever reason, as that person said in that post that I've just read out to you, for whatever reason, that statement or that eyewitness account has now been removed. It's not there. It's not relevant. Bearing in mind, some people may say, well, this is just a bullet point list. This is just a bullet point list of what happened, the important parts. But actually, it states in a massive headline, the first 24-hour timeline. Lancashire police missing from home, Nicola Bulley. Why would you take away information that's actually quite important, particularly if it's someone who knows Nicola? Now, we have a lot of discussion. This part really does get my goat up. Is that the right terminology? I don't know. I'm going to say it. 9:10. We have this discussion about there can be absolutely no confusion about who was seen in the field that day because the person who saw Nicola knows her. The man or woman, whatever, with the white fluffy dog, they saw Nicola at 9:10 in the upper field. This is someone who knows Nicola. So there can be no confusion about the identity of who was in that field. Just take a listen back to what Rebecca Smith says here.
We know at this time that there were a number of dog walkers in the area, and we've been extremely fortunate from the very start of this inquiry to have a number of witnesses, key witnesses, who know Nicola. So there is no miscommunication about the identification of who is in that field. And also, we've viewed a substantial amount of CCTV. Again, whilst we can't cover the whole area with CCTV, we've been really fortunate in that we've had a lot, which has really been able to help us in pin down both Nicola's movements and also the movements of key witnesses, which is why we were able to give a timeline of events quite quickly, but reiterating that we were remaining open-minded to all three of those scenarios. So Nicola was last seen in the field, which we've called the upper field, at about 9:10 that morning. At that time, everything seemed normal. She was walking her dog Willow, who was off the lead. And again, a number of issues and inconsistencies have been raised in relation to Willow and her harness. It was really normal for Willow not to have her harness on. They never kept the harness on when they were in that field. The harness would be taken off Willow when they entered the field and would only be put back on when they were ready to leave the field. So at approximately 9:10, a witness that knows her had the last sighting, and that was at the upper field. And when I say an approximate time, it is that, but we are basing that on obviously the times that we can say that witness left the field. So I'm quite confident it is around that time.
And yet, my problem with that statement is that yes, it may be someone who knew Nicola. It may be someone who knew a lady with blonde hair who walked a brown small dog. But I personally don't believe that that individual actually, quote unquote, knew Nicola. My reasoning for that is that Nicola was missing for around about a week before this eyewitness even came forward. Now, if you knew someone, you would realise they had gone missing very early on because they had a gathering at the village hall. This is a very small community, tight-knit community. If you knew Nicola on some sort of personal level, whatever, on a friendship basis, then you would have known that she was missing within the first 24 to 48 hours. So he may have I think the right terminology which should have been used in these press conferences was someone who recognised Nicola, not knew her, because I personally don't believe that he or she actually knew Nicola Bulley. I think they may have recognised her clothing, the dog maybe, the colour of the hair, but I don't believe that they knew Nicola on some sort of personal level. Yet that's not how it's being portrayed in those press conferences. Anyway, do let me know in the comments section below what your thoughts are on this omission from the timeline, which was released on February the 15th. It's completely different from February the 10th, when it's discussed that Nicola drops her children off at school, and then February the 15th, after the press conference with Rebecca Smith, it simply mentions 8:40, Nicola's children start school. Is this just a wording issue here? Or is it simply the case that they can't prove that Nicola dropped the children off? Now, let me get this straight before I end this video. I personally believe that Nicola did drop the children off that morning. This isn't some sort of weird conspiracy video about, Nicola didn't drop them off and it's all some big cover up. I'm not doing that. That's not what this video is. I do believe that Nicola dropped them off. But why have we lost this friend, this individual, this key eyewitness who saw Nicola that morning? Why has that eyewitness account been taken and removed from the official timeline? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Many thanks for joining me for today's video. If you are new to the channel and you wish to see more content, please don't forget to click the subscribe button down below before you leave. And very shortly in front of you, you'll be able to see some other videos concerning the case of Nicola Bulley, so feel free to work your way through those at your leisure. And as always, many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.